All righty. Hi, ladies. All right, today we have like a very good topic. And it's a very personal topic to me. Now that I'm going into the latter part of my life, life passes you by. It really does. Like one day you're 25, and like then the next day you're not 25. Hi, Ash. So this topic is very important to me because hi, Pink Panda. Hi, Annette. So before I get into the context of how to communicate with Karen, and you guys can hear me, right? I think so. I should have tested that out. But before I get into the context of, this live about how to communicate with Karen, I want to talk about, when I was first starting out in my career, before I started getting into different circles and working with different clients that, had um, careers that were different from mine, that had lifestyles that were different from mine. I just didn't understand some things about communication. And I'm not afraid to admit that that was an area that I really had to brush up on. Okay. And still to this day, if you rub me the wrong way, I will feel like coming out of my character. I will feel like leaving my feminine and going into my masculine. And there's nothing wrong with masculine energy. We all have feminine and masculine energy. But here's the thing. I want to say most women in today's society, me and my father were talking last night on the phone because he's writing a book about all his research that he did, his clinical research. He's a clinical pastor. He worked in prison ministry for many years. I used to go to the prison and sing. Y'all didn't know that about me. Somebody today was trying to tell me about my life on my Instagram, like, oh, I'm so glad that you never had to da 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 da. And I'm like, you don't know me. You know what I show you on my YouTube channel, which is like less than 10% of my life. It's like a glimpse into a lifetime of hard knocks, hard lessons, painful experiences, great experiences, making good decisions. I made a lot of good decisions in my life, which is why God has blessed me with an awesome husband, with an awesome lifestyle, with awesome um communication skills now. When I want to communicate well, I know how to do it. Every now and then I find myself wanting to fall back into my old patterns of communication, and what I realized is they don't suit me. It doesn't suit me. And so I've even leveled up my communication to not debating, because, and if you want to know more what I feel about debating, I just posted that on my Instagram page. I talked about how debating really serves no purpose. If you believe in your values, if you believe in yourself, if you know you're driven by a certain purpose, there is no need to debate with people about their values and their belief systems. And so this really all goes back to a lack of self control. And in the conversation I was having with my father, we were talking, and he was saying that a lot of women are operating in their masculine energy more than usual. And that's why you find this like aggression and this like argumentative spirit and wanting to disagree with what everybody says and prove your point. And like, and the crazy thing about that is they could create their own platform to speak their points, but they rather come on not just my platform, other people's platforms, and other people who have worked hard to build a platform, who put the work in, and then they want to spew out their ideas and negativity because they don't agree with you. And this is kind of the examples of what I'm talking about, people who can't control themselves. And I exhibited some of these negative traits definitely in my 20s. And still to this day, if I feel like I'm being attacked or if I feel like I'm being mistreated. And that's the idea and the core issue of Karen. That is why we have to learn how to communicate with the Karens of the world, okay? The people who just try to come and dominate a space. They are demanding beyond scope. They are, they think they know what's appropriate and what's considered to be appropriate. And they try to go in other people's spaces, or it could be the workplace or whatever, and just, do their thing. So Karen is a slang term for you guys who don't know. A lot of times it's supposed to. At one point, I heard that a Karen was a dominant white woman. Okay, a lot of people refer to white women as a Karen, which is interesting because a Karen can really be anyone. I've had many interactions with women of other races who were not white, and they were definitely also a Karen. So a Karen is a slang term that is used to represent a person perceived to be entitled, demanding beyond scope, all right, of what is appropriate or what is necessary. All right, so that's what a Karen is, just for you guys that aren't into the slang world and like, what is a Karen? What is a Karen? Well, that's what a Karen is, okay? So I want to go ahead and talk about Karen, not from the perspective of the media and social media, because social media is really a separate place from our real life. Okay. Social media is not a guide that I use when I'm working with women in real life. It's not a guide that I use when I'm working with clients that make a lot of money. That seek me for different purposes, as far as my consulting. It's not, social media is not a factor that I think of, because social media is very different from a traditional or even a non-traditional workspace. It's very, very different. And I'm not talking about YouTube. I'm talking about like when you have real clients and contracts and things of that nature, or even when you're working with brands and things of that nature. It's all very political. Okay, whether people want to believe it or not, it's all very, very political. And so I want to talk about some of the mistakes that I made, and I want to talk about microaggression in particular, because microaggression and your response to microaggression is going to be the determiner if you're successful in life or if you fail in life. First, I want to say a lot of people go through life with a woe me, woe me, I'm black, woe me, my hair is not curly, woe me, I'm a little overweight, I just can't get what I want, people are oppressing me, woe me, cry me a river, and one thing I've learned from meeting people all over the world is everybody has a woe me story. I mean, hard stories. I mean, oppressive stories. I mean, unfair stories. And what it opened my eyes to is that my ancestry is no more important than the struggles of people who are suffering all across the world right now in this moment. We know COVID is going on right now. Some of us are breezing through this experience, not saying that we're not sad or we don't get worried, but a roof is over our head. We have food. We are blessed beyond measure. Other people are losing their careers. They are losing their businesses. They are losing everything. And so there's a lot going on in the world right now, which I'm not even going to address. That's not even the point. But I do want to talk about communication, because your communication style can make you or break you. It can destroy your connections. It can destroy your opportunities to succeed. And if you live in a victim mentality mindset, now keep in mind, as a woman, I have three strikes against me that I've always had to work with. One, I'm overweight, although we're working on that. Your girl is getting snatched as we speak. And I have natural hair. I tend to wear my hair in more natural styles. You'll never catch me with like a long straight weave down my back. That's not my thing. I wear my hair out quite often, which people love my hair all over the world. That's one of my biggest compliments, when I wear my natural hair out, from Asians, in particular Asians. Asians really love my hair. And people stare at me when I wear my natural hair out. There are things called microaggressions. And so first, let's go ahead and define what a microaggression is. Microaggressions are your everyday slights, your indignities, your put downs, the insults. a lot of people believe that many people from marginalized groups experience, these microaggressions more than other groups. And that may be true, maybe not, doesn't matter, not the topic of the conversation. But microaggressions are often discussed in a racial context. So that's why, I think the Karen title was kind of funny because, that's the big slur word on social media is like, oh, she's being a Karen. Oh, they're being a Karen. And there's lots of jokes and memes and things of that nature going on. So, it could be gender, it could be your sexual orientation. Somebody might be having a micro aggression towards you because of your sexual orientation. Maybe they don't like your sexual orientation. It could be a disability, could be because you're a woman, like I said. I mean, microaggressions can be overt. There are so many ways to describe them. But the biggest place that we experience microaggressions, I think, is in the workplace. And when we're going into, new environments, sometimes people may feel like they experience that when they're traveling, when you're going to a place and you look different from everybody, And that was something that I never experienced till about 3 years ago, like going to a place where not only do I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, I don't know the people, I don't know how to behave because I don't understand this culture, okay? Because every environment has a culture. Inside your home, there's a culture. In the workplace, there's a culture. In the grocery store, in the shopping malls, there's a culture. And the thing is, we have to learn how to navigate through these different cultures. Is that fair? I don't talk about if it's fair. Life is not fair. Go ahead and just deal with that. The sooner you deal with the fact that life is not fair, the better you're going to be able to navigate through life and really, really win and feel good about yourself and have confidence in yourself and know that I can achieve whatever I want to achieve. If I put my mind to it, if I have my spiritual source that I'm connected with, if I connect myself with the right people, no matter what people do to me or no matter what people try to do to me, I am always going to rise like the cream of the crop that I am. And I feel like this is an important message for young ladies because a lot of young ladies follow me. So I wanted to talk about this. So, those microaggressions, those little slight comments that people may make towards you or you feel they may be making towards you, microaggressions are really hard to pick up on. People believe that they are experts at this, but I think a lot of times what people consider to be a microaggression, they may not know where it's coming from. They may assume it's because I'm a woman or I'm Black or, whatever reason. And all those things may be true because we live in an evil world. There is evil in this world. There are good people. There are bad people. It's always going to be like that. That's not going to change. Okay. So I want to talk about how we should respond when we're dealing with a Karen, because let me tell you something. A Karen is dangerous. All right. A Karen is a very dangerous person because a Karen can become unfrazzled, but Karens are very and a Karen could, let me be clear, a Karen could be a man or a woman, but we're just using this little slang word. Karens are dangerous because they will not always show you their hand. All right. They will do things to slight you, and they will be very underhanded in the way that they navigate if they don't like you or if they don't like something you said, or if they just, sometimes people just don't like you. It's not because you're Black, you're not a likable person. Everyone thinks they're a likable person, and it's like, no, people just may not like your personality. It might not be because I'm Black. People may just not like me. They may not think I'm attractive. They may not think I speak well enough. They may not think I'm educated enough. They may think I don't deserve this position or this place, or I don't deserve to be here. There's so many reasons why people are biased or prejudiced or, have preconceived notions about you. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be for the reason that you think it is. And I think when you open yourself up to the idea that, oh, well, maybe it's just they don't like me, then you won't always take things so personally. And I think that's one of the biggest flaws that I had. The first point I'm going to make is taking things so personally. I can remember in my 20s, like anytime my boss would like say something to me and it was clearly a microaggression because it was a slight comment or underhanded comment, I can remember just feeling like I always had to defend myself. I always got to defend myself. I always got to defend myself. And it's like, that's a habit. It becomes a habit, and it's a hard habit to break. Let me tell you, ladies, once you start developing the habit of taking everything personally, it is a hard habit to break. And I think that when you're in the workplace in particular, you can't look at it from a personal perspective. It always has to be business. When you're out at these events, when you're meeting new people, when you're trying to get into new circles, when you're trying to network to get to certain places that you want to get to, maybe you want to collaborate or you want to start a business with somebody. I mean, you have to be really careful about your reputation. Reputation is really everything. And if you're always the one that's talking about you're oppressed somehow, people don't find that attractive. They don't find it an attractive quality, and they're threatened by it. So first, hi, let me talk about a microaggression with race. Um, Anytime I remember I worked at a predominantly Caucasian school, okay? And uh, in the area, you know, it wasn't, it was, some black students. It wasn't like, all white, but it was a predominantly, white environment. And I think people assume that just because you are a minority in a particular environment that you always have to have your guard up. And I think that's the first mistake when you enter any new environment. It's always one thing my husband taught me when we would go to places, and oftentimes when we go to places, we're the only black people, most of the time, to be quite honest with you. The restaurants we go to, the places we go, the things we like to do, it's probably like four of us that's black. Even in America, a lot of times we would go to places and it wouldn't be that many black people because we just like to do things that are different. And we're willing to take risk and we're willing to do other things. And so one thing my husband had to stop me from doing is like, well, listen, why do you always point out the fact that we're the only black ones here? Like, it would annoy him so bad. He'd be like, so what? And, I think sometimes things are taught to us from childhood. I think some things are ingrained in us from the public school system. Although I did go to private school a number of years for my life. I had a fine experience there. I was the only black girl in my class. The only black girl. It was an African girl there too, but African and African American are two different things. Anybody who has a African friend or has talked to uh, anyone of African descent, you will know that there is a distinction there between African American and African. Not that we don't love each other, not that we're not all from the diaspora, but there's a cultural difference there. I'm American, they're African. And so I didn't connect with the African student. I didn't. I didn't find her to be nice towards me. And that was fine. It could have been a cultural thing. It's not like I was mad about it, but we didn't bond. It was me and an African girl, and everybody else was white. And I think that was my first, and that was as a young child. I think I was in seventh grade. So I've always been exposed to other cultures and other groups of people who were different from me. So I think my scope has always been widened a little bit. But what I do want to say is that it still was ingrained, this idea of always noticing when you're the only black person. It's a very bad habit. And my husband would tell me, I don't want to hear that. Who cares if we're the only black people? Who cares? And I really love him for that, because that really opened me up to be able to be me, to be able to embrace myself, embrace my skin, embrace my hair, embrace my culture, embrace my values, and embrace my principles. And so I said all that to say that when you come in a space already with the mindset about a certain race of people, about a certain group of people, when you enter a space with that energy, sometimes you bring that negative energy in with you. and it's not helpful. So I want to talk about how to deal with microaggressions. And I found a great article on the internet that really kind of hit the points that I should have hit before I spoke sometimes. So I was at this school, me and the principal, we got along at first, but we kind of started bumping heads. And I've experienced this too with other companies that I've collaborated with, where I felt like some things were said that might have been a little but I think that it's important to always keep your cool. It's very, very important, because your reputation, once your reputation is ruined, it's very hard to come back from that. Very, very difficult. And I'm not talking about on no, like, social media can ruin your life if you're like twerking and saying racist things and stuff like that. But I'm not talking about no social media stuff. I'm talking about a real job where you have a contract and you're making real money, and you have to be careful with how you're interacting with people. But you got to work with a Karen, because none of us can avoid a Karen. Okay. You might get a Karen in any environment that you go into. And so I thought this article was very interesting, because sometimes I was too reactive, trying to defend myself. And trying to defend yourself without going through a thought process can ruin you. It could ruin you, ruin your chances. If you're trying to get a promotion, if you're trying to get introduced into a, like I said, a different group or something like that, like you can ruin yourself. And that's not what I want for you, young ladies, the young ladies who are following me. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to carry this heavy load with you into these jobs, into these careers, and into these relationships too, because a lot of the times when we're so full of masculine energy, we're so full of anxiety and insecurity and uncertainty about ourselves, and we're trying to prove ourselves to people, it comes off as harsh and aggressive. And so I want to talk about some things you should ask yourself before you respond to a microaggression. So let's say you think someone is saying something slick to you. Let's say you're in a situation where you feel like you're being mistreated. These are some questions that you need to ask yourself. And this is in the grocery store. This is in the mall. A lot of people have lost their lives just because they lost their cool for something that was so unimportant. Okay. These are questions you need to ask yourself when you're out in the coffee shop. The world is on edge right now, y'all. The world is on edge. In Kuwait, it's been pretty low key. The government has a tighter hold on us than in America. So I know, but I was talking to my sister and she was like, people are so edgy. They're so angry. And they're angry about a lot of things. They're angry because the government is controlling their movement. They're angry because they may be dealing with financial issues. They're angry because they may be dealing with relationship issues. They're angry because they may be full of anxiety or depression. So there could be a lot of reasons why people are angry and full of anger. And they're carrying that into the malls, into these coffee shops, into their jobs. And so here's some questions that you need to ask yourself before you respond to any microaggression. Here are some questions to ask yourself. If I respond, could my physical safety be in danger? If I respond, could I be in physical danger if I respond to this microaggression? If there is any close answer of yes, you need to think very clearly about how to respond to it. Next question. If I respond, will the person become defensive, and will this lead to an argument? Ask yourself, is it worth it? Third question. If I respond, how will this affect my relationship with this person? Now, this could be a coworker. This could be a family member. This could be your husband. This could be a child. How is it going to affect your relationship if you respond? Fourth question. If I don't respond, will I regret not saying anything? Fifth question. If I don't respond, does that convey that I accept the behavior or the statement? Because you may be seething with anger because you feel like you're being mistreated or you feel like you're being disrespected. And believe me, I have been there, and I have handled the situation poorly at times, and I've handled the situation really great at times. So you can't just fly off the handle, especially when there's a lot at stake. Can y'all tell me, do you know about the story in the media where there is a lady with a dog and she's in the park? It's a white lady and it's a black man, and she's in the park and she has her dog, I guess, in an undesignated area. And then the black man comes up to her and says something to her. Do y'all know about that story? They were both being Karens, both of them. Because it just wasn't important enough for him to approach her. He should have just went about his business or called the dog line or whatever you do when people aren't following directions. I wouldn't approach anyone about something that's not my business in public, especially a stranger. I just wouldn't do it. But you have these people who will always try to be a Karen. They will always try to be a Karen. They will always try to dominate. They will always try to stick their nose in things that have nothing to do with them, instead of minding their business in their place of business. There's always going to be that. So if you decide to respond, I'm going to give you some strategies right now of how to respond to microaggressions so that you don't destroy yourself, you don't get fired, you don't get into a situation where now you have somebody gunning for you. Okay. At first, it was just light. Okay. It was just a light situation. Now you have an enemy in the workplace. Now you have an enemy that you shouldn't have, because maybe you could have handled it a little different. All right. So the first thing you can do when you're dealing with the Karen is you can ask for clarification. You could say, could you say more about what you mean by that? How have you come to think that? Now Karen is going to have to think about what she said to you. You don't need to take it to human resources yet. you know, uh, give Karen a chance to explain him or herself. All right. Could you say that more? Can you say more about that? How have you come to this realization, or how are you coming to this, idea? Lots of times people will correct themselves if you ask them to elaborate, and they will think about what they've said, and sometimes they will correct themselves. And now you don't have to be silent, but you can actually respond. All right. The second way you can respond is you can separate whatever the intent is from the impact of what's being said. You can say, I know you didn't realize this, but when you, and whatever the comment or behavior was, when you said, wow, your hair is so kinky, it was hurtful. It was hurtful to me because, I didn't understand what you were saying. Instead, maybe you could say, my fluffy hair. I'm just giving you a wild example right now. So you can tell people when they're inappropriate. But I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with as women is knowing how to appropriately express concern and how to appropriately express our, I want to say feelings, but feelings don't matter on the job. They just don't. You can't operate based in your feelings when you're talking about a client or when you're talking about working with the public. I mean, you just can't get so wrapped up in your feelings. But sometimes if you feel it's racial, or if you feel like it's some type of discriminatory interaction that they're trying to have with you, you may have to address it. But before you go to human resources and start saying they're being racist, because now you're going to get a target on your back. It's going to be a target on your back after that. And you may think you have won the battle, but here's the thing. You might lose the war. And the goal is not to lose the war. Sometimes we have to lose the battle temporarily to win the war. I wish I would have known this when I was 25. I really do. Sometimes it's okay. Lose the battle. Because in the end, you're going to win the war. And that's what you want. So that's the second way you can handle a microaggression. The third way is this, to share your own process. You can say, I noticed that you comment on the behavior. I used to say that too, but then I learned that people take that offensively. And then be done with it. So those are the 3 strategies that I have for you for dealing with microaggression. And boundaries are so important. So I definitely want you to have boundaries. I definitely don't think you should be mistreated anywhere. But this is what I want to end with. And that's all I have for you. I just want to end with this thought. A lot of times, a lot of the women that I'm working with in my private Patreon, join us on Patreon, they DM me questions, or they inbox me questions, or send me topics, or whatever. If I'm doing a one-on-one or whatever it is I'm doing, they'll be like, but I feel like, I just need to defend myself, because if I don't defend myself, it's so hard for me to work here, and I don't like it here, and I'm marginalized. And I look at them through the screen, of course, and I say, well, why do you work there then? I really don't want to hear about people's complaints about where they have to work, because if you feel like you work in a place where you're not appreciated, you should continue looking for another job. I don't care if it's a hard industry and there's only 3 positions in the world. I don't care. Life is life. We all have our cross to to carry. We all have our cross to carry, our burden. The Bible tells you that. You're not going to have a perfect life. You're going to have a burden. I don't know if this thing will be your burden or what will be your burden, but everybody's going to have a burden that they have to deal with every day of their life until they die. And so maybe you work in a hard industry where you have to deal with certain things that maybe the average person doesn't have to deal with, because they're not, navigating different cultural lines, and they don't have to, understand culture. A lot of people wouldn't make it abroad. They wouldn't. Because when you live abroad, you have to understand culture, even if it's not your culture. Sometimes people speak to you in ways that you think are harsh or aggressive, but sometimes it's not. It has nothing to do with your race. It's just the fact that they're used to speaking to people like that. In their mind, they're not being rude. It's rude to me as an American, because in America, we're used to being kind. We're used to good morning, how you doing? And, have a great day, especially in the South, have a great day. And we're always putting on these pleasantries. But around the world, in different places you go, it's not always like that. And at first it's shocking. It's like, oh, wow, y'all are rude. But it's like, then you learn, oh, it's a cultural thing. Life is not fair. Everybody's going to have a burden. If you don't like your job, if you feel like you are being oppressed in your office, my biggest question to you is, why do you continue to work there? Anytime I didn't like something, I made moves, and it wasn't easy, because it's not easy to be your own boss. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's easier to have a regular job, actually. I know people, glamorize entrepreneurship, but it's not sexy. It's not glamorous at all. It's grit. It's hard work. It's frustrating. It's figuring things out. It's staying up all night. It's unbelievably difficult. And same thing is going to be for you. If you're in a hard industry and you're a minority in that industry, or you're the only woman in that industry, well, that's what you signed up for. And complaining is not going to help your situation. You have to learn how to navigate in spaces that you don't feel comfortable in. Because if you don't, you're going to be miserable. and you're not going to make it. And every day that I'm not in my home country, I have to navigate in spaces that I'm not comfortable in. But it's worth it for me because I'm flexible, because I learn how to immerse myself in the culture, because I learn about the people, because I don't make assumptions, and because I always give people the benefit of the doubt. Always give people the benefit of the doubt first. Don't go in with your preconceived notions. Don't go in with what happened to you in the past, carrying that baggage. Always give people the benefit of the doubt. Because when you do that, you have a positive energy around you. And it's very hard to penetrate positive energy. It's very difficult. You be that bright person. You be that light, even if you feel you're not getting it back. Because when you give Karen that same energy, it's going to turn into something horrific. Now you are letting people draw you outside of your character. You might be unprofessional. You may now have a target on your back. You may be considered a problem. People may not want to work with you because you're always saying racism. It's racism. They're racist. People don't want to work with people saying that all the time. That's scary to some people. And they're going to try to get rid of you. So pick your battles. With microaggression, you must pick your battles. And if you can't prove something 99.8%, I would learn how to deal with it another way or look for another job if you're in the workplace. Now, in real life, don't be Karen. Mind your business. If a person is not being harmed violently, it's none of your business. Call the line to get help. Don't be a Karen. Just mind your business. Because a lot of people lose their life unnecessarily. If somebody's got their dog on the wrong part of the park, call the hotline, not for violent crimes, and report them. If you want to be, if you want to report something that's not going on right, call and report it. Don't walk over to a stranger and confront them. What if they shoot you? Do y'all know how crazy people are in this world? What if they shoot you? You want to be shot dead over a dog argument? Over a toilet paper argument? I mean, come on, y'all. Some things are just not worth it. They're just not worth it. Now, career, that's a different topic because that's a very serious, sensitive topic, and you have to handle that sensitively. But we gotta enter these situations with Karen strategically. So if you're dealing with someone in the public, don't be a Karen. If a Karen is trying to approach you, get far away as possible. Karens are dangerous. I'm telling you, they are dangerous people. They are underhanded. They'll smile in your face, and they will be in HR reporting you before you had a chance to report them. So don't lose your cool. Stay professional. If it's not the place for you, go somewhere else. You can win, ladies. You can win. I believe in you. It's not, is it easy? No, that's why I'm talking about it. It's not easy. It's one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do to control your mouth. It's an everyday battle. It's an everyday struggle. You have to pray. You have to meditate. You have to connect to your spiritual source because it is one of the hardest things in the world to control your mouth. Especially if you are on the masculine side, not masculine like men, but like aggressive. You know, you grew up aggressively. You're used to telling people off, getting in people's face, saying, you know, smart comments. If you're aggressive like that, it's going to be even harder. So you need a support system. Seek counseling, ladies. If you know you have a problem with anger, please seek counseling. I'm going to leave a link at the end of this video. I'm going to go back and put the link to Faithful Counseling. I've collaborated with them to help you find a therapist online that is a Christian. Because, and this is for you guys who are Christians. If you're not a Christian, you know, find your own counselor, you know, do you. But for the Christians here, I think we should speak to licensed therapists who are also believers, because then we can connect that spiritual source with the psychology. Nothing wrong with psychology. You know, science, that's how we know things happen in the Bible. It's proven by science, you know, nothing wrong with science and psychologists and therapists. We can use those things in context with our spiritual source. Okay. And so some of you ladies have a lots of trauma. You know, you're angry. You're just angry all the time. You're angry for nothing. You love to argue. You need therapy. You need to go figure out why you can't control yourself, because sometimes we just can't control ourselves. If it's to the point where you know you just legit can't control yourself, get therapy, because then your therapist is going to give you some tools to help you process how to deal with people and not go crazy and start cussing people out and jumping in their face and making it personal and calling people names and, you know, doing all these things that's going to destroy you as a feminine woman. So that's all I wanted to say. I will leave that link in my description once I finish the video. If you know you're angry and you need therapy, get therapy. Don't destroy your career. Don't destroy your relationships. And because you're so angry that you can't deal with microaggressions, you can't deal with people being inappropriate, because we live in an inappropriate world and people are going to say inappropriate things to you and they're going to do inappropriate things. But how you react is more important. So that's how you deal with the Karen. Let me read your comments. I just tuned in, so I missed the beginning, but I had to learn to respond with nice, nasty remarks. That is a very good strategy. Nice so that it looks good to observers, but Karen gets it. Trust me. Okay? Yes. All right. I will see you guys later. Make sure you join us on Patreon if you have a topic that you want us to cover. If you want to talk about weight loss more, that's what I've been working on. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's for my health. I need to do it. I have to do it. It's time to, you know, level up for real. And so I'm on that journey. And any other topics on personal development that you want me to address, join Patreon, join the community. A lot of my videos are going to be removed from YouTube. I'm going to actually do that tonight. I'm not feeling the best today, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove a lot of my videos off of YouTube into Patreon. So that's it, you ladies. I will see you next time. Bye.